Hey, and welcome to Creative Tools for your summer. It's great to see so many. Hi, and welcome everybody. This workshop is called Surviving Summer, and today we're going to look at some creative ways to support your child in the summer holidays. Um, Really great to see so many of you interested and engaged in this workshop. Um, Today is designed for parents and carers of Key Stage 2 primary children. But I'm hoping that if you've got children of other ages, maybe younger or older, that there'll be a lot for you to take away anyway. I'm going to start by introducing myself. I'm Naomi. I am a drama therapist and I work for the Battersea Education and Wellbeing team. We offer workshops and guided self-help for parents and teenagers for behaviour challenges, low mood or anxiety. And we also offer drama therapy for mild to moderate mental health challenges in one-to-one and groups at primary and secondary schools all across the borough of Battersea. And we offer trainings for school staff and parents about wellbeing strategies. So if you'd like to know a little bit more about our service, or you have any concerns about your child's emotional wellbeing needs, please speak to the Special Education Needs Coordinator at your school. Today is going to be 45 minutes of workshop and then 15 minutes question and answer session. And we're going to record the presentation part of today and we'll put it on YouTube. So if you found it interesting and you want to tell other parents, other carers about it, maybe watch it with your partner if they can't make it today, or if grandparents are a big part of your summer care, send them the YouTube link, maybe watch a little bit with them. Or if there's things that you miss and you want to go back to, you'll be able to watch it there. We're not going to be recording the question and answer section, so that part will be kept private. And Ella will be helping with any tech issues. Please put them in the chat box, or you can send an email to wellbeinginschoolsevents@swlstg.nhs.uk. Okay, great. Let's begin. It's so good to see so many of you here, and welcome. So, the presentation part of this workshop today. In part one, we're going to look at how children communicate and how they use their behaviour as communication. We will look at common behaviour challenges in the summer and what these behaviours may be communicating. And then in part two, we're going to focus on creative strategies to support you with developing your child's communication skills and supporting their emotional well-being over the summer. We're going to look specifically at boredom survival tips, planning a routine that supports regulation and emotion management for children, and strategies to help children understand and express their emotions. So first, we're going to take a look at how children communicate. I'm sure, as you all know, when we are first born, our only way to communicate is through our body movements, facial expressions, and voice sounds. And then when children are toddlers, they begin to learn words, and their ability to use them and say what they mean or what they want develops all through childhood. Now, by the time your child's in Key Stage 2, they might be pretty good at telling you what they think or feel for some things, such as what snacks they want or activities they want to do. Honesty and directness, and sometimes being crude, is a feature that I've often really appreciated about children. And I'm sure you have your own examples of times your children have been really direct and clear about what they're feeling, what they want, what they need. But as I know, and I'm sure you know, this isn't the case a lot of the time, especially when emotions are high and things are tricky. Sometimes children's behaviour can be really tricky to understand. The little scene in this cartoon might look familiar to you. It's definitely familiar to me. So there's the little guy and he's yelling, I'm in a very crabby mood, so everyone just leave me alone. I hate everyone. And he's storming off. And then he's standing there alone, looking sad. And he's saying, nobody recognizes my hints to smother me with affection. And he's just told everyone to go away. So it's not clear sometimes for other people that that's what he wants. When children experience big feelings like shame, distress, fear, sadness, worry, or overwhelm, they might not have the words to communicate, and instead they fall back on the same tools they used when they were infants and toddlers: their behaviour, their body language, and the tone of their voice to show us how they're feeling. And behaviour is probably the key one that we're going to see with the Key Stage 2 group of children. And how children use behaviour to communicate is demonstrated in the behavioural iceberg, which shows how many behaviours that we can perceive as bad can be a result of overwhelming feelings underneath. So here we have feelings like lying, refusal, might be underneath anxiety, or shame or stress about doing something. So common things we might see in the summer holidays is refusal to engage in summer activities or going to family friends or grandparents for childcare. And that might be underneath that behaviour of refusal. There might be anxiety about what's going to happen in the new place. There might be shame or low self-esteem, thinking that they might not fit in if they're seeing a new group of fears, or perhaps previous experiences that have been tricky or unpleasant or maybe even traumatic for your little one might be triggered by the sense of unknown. But they might not be telling you that. They will just be refusing or being difficult or procrastinating in the morning. And that might be really difficult for you as a parent or carer to handle. You're not alone if that is something that you experience. It's something that many parents do experience. It's important for us to remember when we are trying to develop communication skills with children that when we are born, our brains are not fully developed, and that this wiring process of the brain that helps us communicate, express things clearly, trust that things are going to be okay, doesn't finish until after we are in adolescence. And we continue to learn and develop this skill and change these pathways all the way across our lives. So as children develop, their brains make the connections that support the use of language to communicate about feelings. And in the picture on the screen, we can see the 3 key sections of the brain. So the bit in red is the fear and instinct response, which is the only part of the brain that is fully developed when children or babies are born and when they are children. The yellow part of the brain, which is connection, memory, emotional expression, play, creativity, is somewhat developed by the time they're in Key Stage 2, but it's not fully developed. And the greeny blue, which is the top part, which is the front of the brain and the top layer, that's the newest part of the brain. And that is the part of the brain responsible for logic, planning, and reasoning. So like I said, when children are born, the red part, which is responsible for fear and instinct, is fully developed. But the yellow, which facilitates connection, play, memory, and emotion expression, and the green, which enables language, logic, planning, and reasoning, are not. For children, even in Key Stage 2, when they might be really good with their words for some things, for others that are more tricky, these pathways which allow them to develop the skills of reaching out to others for support, of using their words to express their feelings, and applying logic and reasoning to things that might be overwhelming or tricky for them, these pathways are still developing, which means if they encounter something that is overwhelming for them, like maybe the fear of going to a new peer group, a new sport group over the summer holidays, or a big disappointment or a conflict or a boundary that upsets them or something that is scary. This can be really overwhelming for them, which means the yellow and the green parts of the brain can go offline, and the red part, which is fear, instinct, response, can run the show. And when the fear instinct response is running the show, we can see tantrums, we can see withdrawing, we can see refusal behavior, defiant behavior, shouting, conflict. There are lots of things we can see when the fear instinct response is running the show. It's important to help children learn to manage their big emotions when the red part of the brain is running the show, when they're tantruming, when they're upset, when they're finding something tricky, because that's what helps them learn to bring the yellow and the green parts online. And when we acknowledge and help a child calm their emotions, and then we connect with them, we give them a hug, we reaffirm our connection with them, and then after we apply logic and reasoning, this is called a bottom-up brain approach. We're working from the red, we're calming the red part of the brain's need, then we're going to the yellow, and then we're going to the green. And when all three parts of the brain are online, this means your child will be regulated, which means they can notice what they're feeling, express it, and apply logic and reasoning to manage the situation. The reason it's really hard for children to manage with the red part of the brain is running the show is because fear, emotion, fight, flight, freeze is running all the behavior. And a great way to explain this is if you think about a time where you've been really, really stressed. Maybe you're late to pick up the kids to school and you're in traffic on the bus and there's no sign it's getting anywhere and there's no way for you to communicate and you're worried and you're stressed. And if someone says to you in that moment, well, why don't you just do this? I know for me and for a lot of people, it can be really hard or really overwhelming to hear that you're not ready because you're just in your emotion and it's overwhelming in that moment, and actually what you need is a bit of comfort before you can move on. Once the red part of the brain has calmed, the child might be ready to express their emotions and connect with you and have a hug, and this brings the yellow part of the brain online and restores their sense of being able to manage their emotions and that they're still loved by you and they're still supported by you. And from that place, they might be able to reason, problem solve about how to resolve the tricky or upsetting situation, which brings the green part of the brain online. Calming children can be really, really tricky in a stressful moment. So you can stop, you can breathe, you can take a second for yourself, and you can choose how you respond when dealing with a child that's really distressed. You can take a second to calm yourself. You don't have to just keep swimming uphill. You can take little breathers and breaks to support you with this as well. So now we're going to talk about challenges that parents often face in the summer. So in the summer, children are faced with so many challenges, such as big routine changes, lots of unstructured time, lots of new activities, perhaps clubs or different places, or being with different caregivers than usual, time away from their friends or teachers, a fear of missing out, like if their peers are doing really interesting, wild things and that's not an option for you right now, that can be really tricky for a lot of children and it can bring up a lot of feelings for them. And a big one, probably the biggest one I hear, is boredom. Children can really struggle to manage and express and cope with their boredom. And this can also be really challenging for parents and carers to manage their routines and to fill the time. And that can mean you have a lot less space for yourself and to meet your own needs, which means that although the summer might be filled with some really nice activities and opportunities for quality time, for memory making between you and your children, it can also be an extra strain on your energy, finances, and mean you have less time to focus on your needs as well. So I'm just acknowledging that while summer can be tricky for children, it can also be really tricky for parents and carers. Which means, and these challenges mean that common behaviours that can emerge from children might be part of the following needs. So if your child is really, really hyperactive and like they always want to play football in your flat and nothing you do calms them down, or the same time if you've got a child that's really, really low energy, they don't seem to want to do anything, they're withdrawn, it might indicate a need that in their routine they need things to either help them bring their energy down and regulate and be calm, or bring their energy up and be alert and more interested in their environment. Children being disinterested in doing any activity you suggest and constantly complaining of being bored might indicate that they are struggling to manage feelings of being frustrated, needing to learn strategies to manage self-directed time, or perhaps struggling a little bit with their self-esteem, which is something we're going to talk about massively in a moment. But boredom, quite often what's underneath boredom is feelings of frustration or disconnection from environment. And this is something that we experience in any part of life, even as adults, like when we're on the tube, when we're traveling, if we're waiting for a train, if we're waiting for a meeting. And being able to manage boredom, although tricky, is a life skill. And quite often it's the feelings underneath the boredom of frustration or upset that are actually what's tricky for children to manage. And if your child is presenting with low mood, upset or anger regularly, or they're kind of exploding or getting quite tearful, it might indicate a need for them to learn more strategies for them to express and communicate their emotions and have words or creative ways to kind of show to you how they're feeling. So we're going to talk about all these three things in a moment. So part 2, creative strategies. So now we're going to look at some creative strategies to support you in communicating with your child and managing their emotional needs over the summer. And so the first creative strategy we're going to speak about is boredom. So kids often complain about being bored. I hear it all the time. I hear it from parents, from carers, from the children themselves, from teachers, about when they talk about their summer holidays and things. But boredom can actually help develop skills of creativity and self-esteem. So no matter your child's age, it's really helpful to sit down and to talk to them about their interests and what brings them joy and what makes them happy. And then you can collaborate on a list of both some short-term activities and things that they might want in their day and long-term projects for them to look to when they feel bored. If you have the conversation in advance, it's much more likely to be successful. Older kids can take on longer projects like planting a garden or taking a bunch of DIY leftovers and being challenged to invent something. And these kind of projects teach kids skills like planning, how to break a task down into steps, and how to organize it, even though they might resist it every step of the way. Now, as cheesy as this quote is, kids need to be bored. That is how creativity is born. There's a massive truth in it. When children learn to manage boredom, they're learning to manage and plan, to organize their materials, organize what options they have, organize their time, and they're learning to solve problems. And these are two skills that are vital to any kind of creative thinking or problem-solving thinking. So when they're struggling to manage their boredom, encouraging your child to reflect on what is it that you need right now? How are you feeling? How can you express this feeling? And how can you make a toolkit of things or activities to support them or you when you feel this way? When kids reject every idea that you give them, which is a common, I've been there myself, a common cycle you get into with kids when they're saying, I'm bored, I'm bored, I'm bored. They might just want your attention. And you can, if you notice yourself getting into a cycle of offering them things and nothing quite suffices, you can name that you've noticed the need, that maybe they want attention, and you can say, I'm wondering if you just want to spend time with me right now. I can't because I'm working because of this, but you can remind them of a time you will have together later, maybe after dinner, watching TV together, or a time on the weekend that's quality time. Or you can help children learn that present attention from you is coming, so they can learn to manage their frustration in the meantime. That's one skill that comes out of learning to manage boredom. And you can also break the cycle and break that kind of being stuck in giving them attention when maybe you're trying to do something or get some work done or clean something and you can't really give them time right now. And both of you are getting frustrated, both the child and you. And you can say that they must pick one of two activities. And it's great if these are activities that you've already spoke with your child about to manage their boredom. And encourage them to pick one. Ideally, they then choose one. And then if the project isn't going as planned, if they're struggling to engage, if they're feeling like they're failing, I mean, that is just your child learning to problem solve in tasks and manage the frustration of when they're trying to draw something and it doesn't look the way they want. And you can perhaps support your child in staying with the task for a bit longer with the activity, by helping them by like, what do you see, what does it feel like, how can you use the lines or the colors, or sort of use your language to guide them in continuing to engage with the activity, and helping them learn strategies to be self-starting, to problem solve for themselves. And then what's really important is you praise when they stick with the activity for a little bit longer, or when they managed their boredom a little bit. That praise is really, really important. And that praise of sticking with the activity, as well as knowing that they have quality time with you later, then functions as the reward. The reward doesn't become not doing anything and staying in a frustrating interaction with you. There's a quote by a clinical psychologist called Stephanie Lee that says, boredom might not be super distressing, but it's not fun. Life requires us to learn to manage our frustrations and regulate our emotions when things aren't going our way. And learning to manage boredom is a fantastic way to teach that skill. The second strategy we will look at is regulating routines, which is something that actually also helps children learn to tolerate boredom, because they know maybe quality time with you is coming, or time outside to run, or a time doing an activity they enjoy, so they can tolerate the thing that they don't like a bit more. Children thrive on consistency and routines, as this helps them feel safe and secure. It also helps the rhythm of their body, their nervous system, the same way that we can learn to feel hungry when we first wake up in the morning and at lunch and dinner time. And it works kind of the same with their energy levels, where a routine can help them have higher energy at certain points in the day and then wind down better towards bed. However, this doesn't mean that summer can't be a really flexible time, or it can't be more relaxed. What's important in kind of managing your routine for summer is planning it with your child, making it as collaborative as possible. But before you go to have that conversation with your child, having a think for yourself, maybe in a little moment that you get for yourself, maybe on the bus, you could reflect on the notes app on your phone, or when you're having a cup of tea, or whenever. Maybe have a think now of what that time where you could have a reflect on what kind of routine you want your children to have over the summer, what that might look like for you. And think about what things in the routine do you need to stay the same for your sanity. So what are deal breakers for you? What are boundaries that you will die on the hill trying to enforce? So that might be things like your child brushing their teeth at the same time every night and getting ready for bed at the same time every night, but you might be willing for them to stay up a bit later reading in the summer. It might be having breakfast at the same time every day is something that you really want to stick to, because that means you can manage your day well, but you might be more willing for them to have more time playing outside, or to have a later dinner time, or to have longer time doing something creative rather than practicing like a skill that they're learning, like spelling. So with routine planning for your summer, you really want to think about what battles you want to pick. And then if you go into the conversation with your child and you make it collaborative, and you have reasons for the things that are really firm boundaries for you, and spaces that you can be flexible and you can get your child on board and excited about it, there's a higher chance you'll stick to it. And if you can make the making of the routine visual in some way, there's a lot of ideas for this in the pack that I'm going to send out with this presentation, a little appendix of loads of creative ideas that you can have a look at, and it might spark other ideas for you to bring into your home. But yeah, if you can make it visual or easy for your child to follow and see and feel like you've made it together, that is something that really supports children being on board with this and collaboration for you as a family. Things to watch out for: if your child is presenting with a really low energy mood and not wanting to engage with anything, or they're hyper constantly and struggling to manage anxiety or their impulses, or they're just wanting to like play football in your living room all the time and it's driving you crazy, it might be a sign that when you're thinking about their routine, you need regulating activities implemented into their day. So that means, as well as regular meal times, regular morning and bedtime routines, activities with calming effects, such as reading before bed or time to colour, could be added into their routine. And this is proven to support children with learning to manage their emotions and regulation throughout the day, as they know a time when they will be calmed and comforted is coming. Their resilience for the more tricky times is proven to increase. Routines don't have to be a strict or a difficult thing. They can be fun in the summer holidays, like fuming days of the week, messy Mondays, tasty Tuesdays, water Wednesdays. There's some ideas about this in the appendix I'm going to send out. And you can collaborate with your child to decide on summer routines, enforcing what is a deal breaker for you and reflecting on what you're just willing to have flexibility with. As I said before, it's about thinking, what battles do you really want to pick? And maybe battle is the wrong word, because that assumes it's going to be difficult. But what boundaries, do you really want to keep, and which ones are you willing to be a bit flexible with? But it's really worth having a think about, what do you need to preserve your well-being and your sanity whilst making that summer routine. So if your child struggles with being overactive, overwhelmed, perhaps they're constantly bickering with their sister, wanting to play football in the flat, and when something happens that upsets them, they can't manage and they end up having tantrums, melting down, shouting or being aggressive, it might be a sign that they need opportunities to get their energy out throughout the day. Sometimes an analogy I like is identifying if your child might be like a little volcano and they need to release and express their energy throughout the day, otherwise they will explode. There's no shame, no worries if that is something that you experience. There are children like that, where they've got a lot of energy and they need to express it, otherwise they explode. And sometimes, if we remember the behaviour iceberg, when they're exploding or when they're with the high energy, they might be actually feeling underneath it, like they're bored or they're nervous about something or worried about something that might be underneath the behavior of exploding. So sometimes kids need a little bit of encouragement to engage in the activities that help them express their energy or bring their energy down, and your child is really high energy and they're saying they want to sit in and stay in on screens and relax, but actually if they do that all day, they're going to be pinging off the walls later when you're trying to get them ready for bed. So you as a parent, as a carer, you know your child best, and you can tune into their energy and help them learn what they need in their routine, and what to bring their what they might need to bring their energy out or down. So some activities I have to kind of get their energy out if they're really hyperactive and they need just opportunities to let go of energy during the day. They might need time during their day to play in the park, to run around. If they can run around with other kids, brilliant. Yeah, parents, if you could put in the chat any kind of favorite parks you have in the local area, that would be really great, because other parents might not know what the good spots are. Home workout videos. I know Joe Wicks has a lot of like kids home PE workout videos on YouTube, but there's loads of people that do kids workout videos, and they can be like Zumba or dance or more like high intensity interval training. There's all sorts. So if you do have a little bit of space in your home for your child to do these workouts at home, usually you just need enough space for them to stand like a star. That would be really great. And including these into your child's routine will help them have opportunities to get their energy out, which may help them better engage with their daily routines. Getting outside is really good for emotional well-being, but also creative tasks that involve creative energy can be really good to include into daily routines, and some can last over a few days or even a week, and they can be contained to one area of your home. And time for creativity each day might help your child engage with their ideas and express them, which may help them stay more regulated or more focused at other times. They may also be able to pick up new skills in the process. And a creative task such as paper mache volcano making, where you get old newspaper or paper, recycle some cardboard boxes and use a little bit of PVA glue, which you can get for about £1.50 from the Works or Amazon, and 500ml would be enough for several volcanoes, if not a bit more. It goes quite far. And you can paper mache, which is when you use the glue and ripped up newspaper and stick it onto the cardboard to make the volcano. Then once it dries, the next day you could paint it or colour it in with crayons. And then you can get Coke and Mentos and go to a park and you can explode the volcano, and that's quite rewarding for a child. And that's also, you can kind of celebrate with them their focus, their attention, their ideas, their creativity, and make them the volcano. And then there's this rewarding experience of exploding it at the end of the week. So it's one example of a more long-term creative project to get energy out. And there are more ideas in the handout I'm going to send you, or it might spark some of your own. As well as getting the energy out and expressing it, children who are overactive may benefit from, well, I think all children benefit from time in their routines to bring their energy down to focus. So creative activities such as making lava lamps, where you need any type of oil, a bit of water, a jar or an old water bottle, and a little bit of food dye, and something to heat it up, so like a torch or a lamp, to make the lava lamp. And this is an activity that requires focus, is sensory, it requires low lights to get the best out of it, and it can have a really calming effect on children. And time each day to sit with their lava lamp, heat it up, make a calming atmosphere, maybe just before lunch or just before bed, or at a time when maybe another sibling needs to have a nap, helps children creatively practice the skill of bringing their energy down to focus. But of course, to calm children down, you don't actually physically need an object a lot of the time. You can also do it by, if you're in the park, getting them to sit and being like, what can you hear? Like, what are the name of 5 things you can hear? What are 5 things you can see? What are 5 things you can touch? How do your clothes feel? And kind of repeat those questions for a while, helping them come back into a calm state of sitting in awareness of what's around them. And then, okay, now we've noticed that what's around us, let's take a deep breath. It's time for us to gather up and tidy our stuff. It's time for us to go now. And that can help children calm as well. So activities to bring the energy down to calm, as well as parts of the routine, they can be brought in to help children transition from one activity to the other. So ending their time in the park or ending their creative time before they have to go and brush their teeth and get ready for bed. It might be hard for really, really hyper, high energy children to listen to books, to engage with reading, and you might not want them to have Kindles or iPads or tablets because of the light, and that can affect them before sleeping. But sometimes if you get children to listen to an audio story from YouTube or from your local library, and then give them paper and colouring pencils or crayons or felt pens, and encourage them to draw little bits that they see in the story. This is quite a regulating activity because it requires listening, but also visual and creative thinking. And if it's a really long story, children can listen to a bit and work over the story at the same time each day over the summer holidays. And the repetition of this activity will support them in learning to regulate at certain parts of the day. They also might be really proud of what they're drawing and create from it and have a little project from this. And also engaging with the book in this listening and visual way can also make reading and stories more accessible for a lot of children, and they might develop creative skills from this. Next, we'll look at children who are low energy, who might be communicating a need for a little bit of help to bring their energy up, to bring their excitement back into their environment, to realise that they might be nervous or sad or having low self-esteem, and they might need a bit of support regulating up and helping them be a bit more present in their environment and realise actually they're okay. They don't need to withdraw. They're okay. Children that are like this, you might see they might be daydreaming, sad, low energy, bored, unmotivated, tearful, or withdrawn. And soothing activities for children that have low energy can be activities such as making things with clay or Play-Doh. You can make Play-Doh at home with flour, water, salt, and food colouring. There are lots of recipes on YouTube for this, and I've linked one in the handout I'm going to email out to schools for parents shortly after this presentation. Activities with Play-Doh or clay can be really soothing for children with low energy because they're sensory. You touch them, you're feeling them, they're physically there, and they can squeeze, bash, poke, twist the Play-Doh, and this can bring energy back into the body. It can help to wake them up. You can also help your child by sitting with them and gently getting them to notice, what do they feel? What do they notice about the Play-Doh? What temperature is it? And after doing this for a while, you could maybe encourage them to make something. And we can do the same activity with whatever you have, whether it's paint or crayons, recycling stuff like bottles, newspaper, bits of plastic with glue and scissors. We can start by just practicing noticing the child with low energy and helping them engage with what they can see, what they can touch, what they can feel, and this helps them realize that they're okay, and perhaps they might engage a bit more interest in their environment and feel a bit more motivated to make something interesting or fun or to manage their boredom. When we practice doing this with low energy children, we're helping them learn the skill of being able to notice their environment and re-engage when they are tired, overwhelmed, or nervous. And this is a skill that can translate into tricky or times or other challenges. There are times in life where we might feel withdrawn and really tired, or low energy, but actually we need to learn to bring our energy back up and engage with our environment again to just do our day-to-day tasks. Activities to soothe low mood or withdrawn children may also be DIY activities that involve senses and the environment. If you have a lot of herbs and spices in your kitchen, using the internet to Google different recipes to make different teas, and then having a tea time together. And this is great because it's an activity that involves sight, smell, taste, and touch. Any cooking or baking you can do together. Is there space in your day to involve your child in making lunch and eating lunch and then washing it up? Can that be an activity that you do together to help bring their energy up and make it interactive and get them doing some creative skills? And if you have instruments accessible, practicing them from books in the library or YouTube videos, practicing making sounds to music that you could play either on YouTube or another music platform. Or if it's a really younger child, like younger than Key Stage 2, they might still be at the age where you can make instruments with them, like rice in a plastic water bottle can be a rain sound maker, or you can make little drums out of like fabric and string and cardboard. And there's lots of DIY how to do this videos on YouTube. Also, time outdoors, noticing and engaging with nature, helping your child notice what's in their environment, gather nature materials, and making arts and crafts things with them is a great way to start getting them excited about what's around them again. And as well as a regulating routine, children sometimes need a bit of help, like the little guy in the cartoon, to learn to identify and name their emotions. And there are many creative tools you can apply to support them with this, and that you might be able to integrate into your play over summer. By labeling emotions and giving children words to express their feelings, they will be better able to self-regulate over time. Dr. Daniel Siegel, who is a clinical psychologist and a therapist, talks about the phrase name it to tame it. And what he means by that is when we accurately name what feeling a child is experiencing. Say, I wonder if you're feeling angry. And that's correct. And the child realizes that you understand how they're feeling and you've maybe been there too. The red part of their brain calms down a bit, and the other parts, the yellow and the green, can go back online. And that can help them regulate or calm. It can put the brakes on our big emotional reactors and help us feel calmer and connect with our parent or our caregiver, or the people around us or our environment. It's the same for adults, it's the same for children. When we feel understood, we're more able to be calm and we're more able to be open to applying logic and reasoning to situations. There are lots of creative ways you can help children learn to name their emotions. Putting an emotions wheel or the zones of regulation on your wall at home might be a great way to continue using the words or language that they might hear at school, at home, and you can use it in conversation and encourage your child to do the same. Encouraging your child to colour or create their own versions is a really great way to get them to engage with it in another level. And they can also use the words from it maybe in stories they're writing, or you can talk about characters on TV and what words might you use to describe how they're feeling to help expand their vocabulary. You can also work together to draw a body map. Draw with your child body maps for different emotions. For example, there's one here that is looking at what do we feel in our body when we're anxious? How do we know that we're anxious? Maybe we feel a lump in our throat. Maybe we shake. Maybe we feel weak legs or upset stomach. And this is a great activity to get children in Key Stage 2 starting to think about how they might notice what they're feeling, what their body is feeling, might be telling them. Like, if they've always got a stomach ache, have they got a stomach ache, or are they actually feeling anxious? Could there be something they're worried about? And visually demonstrating this for children, and you maybe using some language to describe it for yourself, like, oh, my heart's beating really fast right now. I think I'm a bit worried. Maybe I'm going to take a deep breath. Like, giving those examples to children can help them start to relate experiences that happen in their body with what they might be feeling, which is definitely a skill that can really set them up for adolescence and being a teenager well, being able to relate feelings in the body like tension in the throat with anxiety, and then learning to express it and manage it when things are tricky. You can also talk about emotions with characters in any TV show, books, comics, movies that you watch together. You can talk about what is the character feeling, how might we show it, how might they be showing it, what behaviours are showing their feelings, how might they manage it, what do you think about that? Doing this with TV shows or movies is really great for when you're tired, as by talking about the characters, you're spreading the message to your child that you understand feelings, you can help validate them, you understand, like, if your child has certain opinions on what's happening in a TV show, just by you hearing them out, you're spreading the message to your child that you respect their feelings and you can validate them. But it also maybe doesn't require that much energy. So if you're exhausted, watching a movie and just having little conversations about it can be a great way to kind of wield in more conversations about emotion into your routines. Same way, if there's little opportunities to catch in with each other, check in with each other about feelings in the car, on the tube, on transport, when you're waiting for an appointment, that can be really great. And it could just be like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how good is your day? If today is your best day ever or your worst, where's your hand at? Or little conversations like that get children, even if they don't know how to answer it straight away, they encourage them to learn to start developing the skills of expressing and understanding what they're feeling. So now, thank you so much for listening to the presentation so far. I'm going to stop recording because now we have some time for some questions. So please take a second to think about any questions you have and pop them in the chat. And if you're leaving us now, I really appreciate you listening to this workshop, and I hope that there are a few little tools or things that you might be able to take away from and weave them into your summer. One thing I always say is it's not about doing everything and doing everything perfectly. If you can take 1% of an idea from this workshop and weave it into your summer routine, that is a success. So I'm wishing you a lovely summer. And please, if you do have worries about your child's well-being, reach out to the special education needs coordinator at your school or to one of the following helplines. I'm going to put the helplines onto the screen now. Thank you very much. Wishing you a lovely summer from everyone at the Battersea Education Wellbeing team. Thank you and goodbye.